Welcome back to another episode of High Value Dating, everyone. If you're anything like me, you are a hustler. And if you're a high value individual, you probably are a go-getter in some capacity. So the topic we're going to unpack today is hustle culture. And is that getting in the way of you reaching your romantic goals? Let's talk about it. Hey there, it's your girl Nelly, matchmaker and dating coach. We talk about all things high value dating, how to meet your person, how to find love in today's dumpster fire dating economy, and also how to become a high value single because as I always say, we don't attract what we want in life, we attract what we are. So if that sounds interesting to you, please make sure you follow and subscribe to this podcast, and I can't wait to take you along this journey. Welcome to the High Value Dating Podcast. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that I think a lot of us struggle with, which is, do we chase our career goals or our romantic goals? Sometimes it can feel like we are at a fork in the road and we have to decide between the two. And if we work more hours, which a lot of us do, that might deter us from being able to socialize and engage in hobbies and essentially put ourselves out there or even have the energy, forget all the other stuff, just to even be on apps and meeting people. But if we don't do that, are we basically selling our souls to a job, whether it's our own company or someone else's company? And that might feel exciting right now, but where will that take us and lead us 10, 20 years from now? Because at the end of the day, life is about people. Life is about making memories. It's about going for, your goals, of course, but also enjoying the ride. And it's really nice when you can enjoy the ride with someone. So let's talk about that today, because I think a lot of us do juggle that. And I can tell you right now, I'm one of those people too. I am very passionate about my work. I love working, but sometimes I also find myself in a situation where I'm like, am I working too much? Am I giving too much of my energy and soul to my career? And where will that consequentially lead to if I don't come up for air every now and then and actually try to put myself out there romantically? Because also part of it is like, you might even put yourself out there. Like I go out a lot, I socialize a lot, I'm always meeting people, but your energy might still be in work mode. And so you want to make sure you are able to go into those situations and interactions with the right energy, with the right mindset. I also think this is something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think women struggle with it a little bit more than men, because in a lot of senses, if a man works more, it actually increases his dating marketplace value, right? It increases most likely his income, therefore his desirability in the pool of singles. And men also don't have the same biological clocks that a lot of us ladies have, right? So, if you think about it from the perspective of a guy, a man can wake up at 40 after putting 20 good years into his career and decide, okay, it's time to start dating and, finding a romantic partner. Whereas for us ladies, if we do want to have a family and we want to, be able to check that box off in our life, we, in a lot of senses, need to kind of have the career stuff squared away, sometimes by 30, even 35, and if you don't, if you're just working, you run the risk of missing that window. And I know there are going to be a lot of people rolling their eyes saying, oh gosh, we're living in a progressive time, but I'll tell you this much, as a woman and definitely a career-oriented one, it's something that I'm always pondering. I'm always kind of weighing. I'm always juggling, right? Because if you're giving more energy to your work, that's going to mean you're not able to give as much energy to other aspects of your life. Even things like going to the gym, maintaining yourself, it all is interconnected. And I have this one girlfriend who always says to me, Nelly, life is like a pie. The bigger slice you give to one thing, the smaller slice you're naturally going to be able to give to another thing. So you, in a lot of senses, have to kind of find that balance and also maybe change up your priorities. Are certain things of higher priority than others? Let's talk about that. So it's a lot to unpack, right? But I think having fulfillment in your career is important. I think doing something with your life that is purpose-driven, that you're passionate about, is important. Doesn't mean you have to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You could open a yoga studio or a nail salon. Maybe you're really passionate about that. Or maybe you're really passionate about tutoring kids. As long as you're doing something with your life that gives you that sense of self-actualization. Why do I think that's important? Well, first, again, because it is, as mentioned, something that we feel a lot of times we derive self-esteem from. But also, I think it makes us more interesting when we have something going on. I think especially as women, if you're a woman and you're listening to this, having a passion, a purpose, something you're doing with your life is sexy to a lot of men. I speak to high value men every single day, and most of them, I would say 99%, don't want to bump on the log. They don't want to have to babysit you all day. They want to know that while they're working, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be able to occupy your own time. And also, we're living in an age where, a lot of people want more of a power couple dynamic. And so it's not to discount your career goals, right? But thinking about where you're placing priority in your life, I think is a conversation worth having with yourself. And maybe that conversation is like, okay, look, I'm going to grind for another 2 years. And then I'm going to really focus once I've gotten that promotion on dating. You can make that type of deal with yourself. Or maybe it's like, look, I'm not getting any younger and I'm going to do just fine in my career, but maybe I put a little less energy into getting that promotion. And, I actually leave at 6 o'clock instead of staying till 9 o'clock. And I spend, the other 3 hours putting myself out there, socializing, engaging in hobbies where I'm going to meet like-minded people. You have to think about things, I think, if you're not thinking about things in that way, because if you don't, which a lot of people don't, you run the risk of waking up one day when you're 45 or 50 years old and all you have to show for is your career. And all your friends are married, your family's married, or, as you get older, maybe you start to lose people in your life, right? I know it sucks to hear, but that's definitely something that happens. And you find that you're lonelier because you neglected the key years of your life, which maybe you should have been dedicating to finding a partner. So I do think it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a worthwhile conversation. My personal advice on this is, and this is more tailored to women right now, but I'm going to get to men in a second. I think that it's good to be a go-getter. I'm a go-getter, so I would never knock the hustle. But you can't totally put your love life on the back burner if that is important to you. If it's important to you to start a family one day or get married one day, you have to make sure you're putting effort into that aspect of your life too. It's just like, think about your career. If you put zero effort in, you'd probably see zero rewards. You have to put effort into everything that you do. It's just a matter of sometimes making a very mindful effort, and what's the word I'm thinking of? A conscious effort to actually say, okay, if this is a priority of mine, I need to make sure that 3 nights a week I am going out, or I am doing this type of hobby, or I am going on X amount of dates a week. You have to make a point to actually try. And I think that part of why a lot of people don't do this is there's almost this message in society that love is just going to find you. You're just going to wake up one day, run to the grocery store and meet some guy named Brad in the grocery aisle, and you guys are going to hit it off, or at Starbucks. And sometimes that happens, but I think it happens even more when you're in that energetic state where you're ready to receive it. But if you're not used to being in that energetic state because you're already closing yourself off to social activities, then it's going to be even harder to slip into that when you're in a grocery store, because you're probably just going to be still in work mode. You're going to, be uncomfortable with the energy that could be coming your way. And so you're going to be closed off. It does. And I know there are, again, a lot of women. I have a lot of girlfriends who, will kind of fight me on this, but I do think, and I've heard from men, it gets harder as a woman as you get older. And so wherever, it's not about knocking yourself for years that maybe you feel you've wasted. It's not about looking back on the years that, you've already kind of put behind you and saying, oh, I should have done this, I could have done that. Forget that. What are you going to do from this point moving forward? What are you going to change today, tomorrow, and the day after to essentially put yourself on a new path that leads you closer to your goals? That is the question you need to start asking and answering, if that's a goal of yours. And if you're listening to this podcast, I reckon it is, right? Why would you be listening to this podcast if you didn't want a high value mate? Again, not comfortable conversations to have. Now, I know a lot of women will also say, oh, so what am I supposed to do? Just get fired at my job or quit my career? No, absolutely not. But maybe you pull back 10% of your energy in your career and you pour that 10% into your dating life or into your hobbies, right? Or something. And it doesn't mean you can't still have that career moment. But one of my favorite quotes, and I think it was Oprah who quoted this, was, you can have it all, but not all at once. Meaning you're probably not going to be at the height of your career while you're also meeting the love of your life and jetting off to Paris for romantic getaways and also in the best shape of your life. Like, it's really difficult to tackle a bunch of different sectors of your life at your highest potential simultaneously. Right? The years that you might be at the height of your career, well, that might be the year that you're like not the most present mom. That also might be the year that you're not, maybe in the best shape. And this isn't, by the way, to say that like it's so extreme where you're completely out of shape and you're, excelling in your career. No, everything is balanced. But I'll give you guys like a personal anecdote. Right now, I have a lot going on career-wise. And because I have a lot going on career-wise, I'm not going to the gym very often. Does it mean I'm not in good shape? Of course not. I'm still trying to put good foods in my body and walk as much as I can. But that part of my life that for a long time was like the part of my life I was giving the most to, which was fitness, has definitely taken a bit of a back seat. It doesn't mean that I'm never going to get back into like lifting again. I will. It's just probably not going to be for, unfortunately, a few months. Unless I want to start waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and going to sleep at 9. But then if I'm going to sleep at 9, well, that means I'm not socializing as much, right? I'm not going out on the town. I'm not meeting people. I'm not dating people. And so as you can see, and this is like a real life example, and maybe you're listening to this and you have it nailed down. Maybe you're rolling your eyes because you're like, well, I've managed to do it. Cool. You are in the minority. Because what you give to one thing, you're naturally going to take a little bit away from another. It's not easy. Right? And it doesn't have to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be effortless. It's tough putting yourself out there. It's tough, excelling in your career. It's not a walk in the park. But if you want what you say you want romantically, you need to actually make a mental note that this is going to become a priority for you. And it doesn't mean, again, that everything else is going to go on the back burner. It just means that you might need to dial down your effort in those aspects of your life so you can give more effort to this aspect of your life, right? And I think when you think about it too in like seasons, as opposed to like forever, like, oh, I'm just going to like never be able to reach my career goals. No, you're just in a season. You're in a season now where maybe you need to give a little more to your career, but understanding that like, okay, if you're going to give more to your career in this season, what are you going to do next season to give more to your dating life? Or to your workout life, or to your social life, right? And just compartmentalizing it that way and almost having like time frames and calendars around it. So like, here's another example for you guys. I plan on going on vacation this summer, but I know when I go on vacation, I'm not going to be able to give as much to my career, right? I have already mentally come to terms with that. But that's a choice I'm making because in my mind, if I'm going on vacation, then I'm going to come back even more energized career-wise. And I think I'll be able to give even more and get even more out of my career. So it's all just kind of like a push-pull and an equation. And whatever, you want your equation to shake out to, you just have to understand that like the sum of the parts are sometimes greater than the whole. Stay with me because when we get back from the break, we're going to talk about even how this plays out with men. Because guys, if you're listening and you are a dude, you might be like, well, this is very female-centric. I know a lot of men too who for years and years and years have to put off their romantic life in order to reach their career goals. And, there's a price that comes with that. There's a benefit that comes with getting married early. So let's talk about it. Right before we went to break, I was talking a lot about some of the struggles and challenges that women face when it comes to the kind of mental battle between, do I focus on my career or do I focus on my romantic life and other goals of mine? And I would say this too, like guys have a different set of challenges. Men have the benefit of having a little more time, right? Like you can focus for 25 years on your career, wake up at 45 as a guy, and actually your dating marketplace value may be increased versus if you had, started looking for a wife at 25 because now, ideally, you have a little more success under your belt, more, financial, maybe you're more financially established. And, age is looked at differently for men than it is for women in the dating market. So, there are certain benefits that come with that. But the consequences are that if you are going to put off marriage and a relationship for, those years that you're putting your sweat equity in, and when I say relationship, I just mean a more meaningful one, not like casual ones, is it only gets harder as you get older as a man too, to basically change your ways when you are set in your ways. So for example, there's a statistic that if you are over 40 as a man and you have never gotten married and never have kids, the likelihood of you getting married and having children, actually even just walking down the aisle, forget the kids, is 12%. For women, the same age, same circumstance, it's 9%. Why is this? It's not because you're any less eligible as a guy of finding a partner. It's because you are accustomed to the bachelor lifestyle by that point, and changing your ways and changing your lifestyle when you're already cemented in it can feel tough, right? Like that's uncomfortable. How do you go from never being married, never having kids or the responsibility of that, and basically having the freedom and flexibility to have as many options as you want and do what you want, to then just deciding, okay, I guess I'm going to completely 180 my lifestyle, settle down with someone. It's a tough pill to swallow if that is all you've ever known. And I personally, you guys know I live in Los Angeles. I know plenty of guys here who, oh my God, they'd make for the most fantastic fathers, the best husbands, but because they're not used to that level of commitment, they a lot of the time see it as a threat to their independence, a threat to, the freedoms that they've afforded through just, again, putting in the time and, and effort into their careers, that it can feel challenging. And then, what happens is you end up letting your 40s just go toward bachelor choices, and it gets harder in your 50s, because then you're in your 50s and now you're like, well, I still want the younger ones, but it's just a different set of challenges. And it's a lot easier for a 25-year-old woman to want to date a 40-year-old man versus a 25-year-old woman to want to date a 50-year-old man. Plus, by that point too, it's even more challenging to want to get your head around the mindset of settling down, because it just feels far. And you maybe look back. I know a lot of guys in their 50s who are like, damn, I should have done this when I was in my, early to mid 40s, but they missed the window too. And so it's a different biological clock. Now, obviously, we've seen a lot of guys, and as a man, your biology is different. You can get, a woman pregnant pretty much at any age as a man. So, it's not like with us women where, you've got eggs, and if you kind of miss the window, it's tough, but it's still difficult, because do you want to be a father of a newborn baby at 52, 53 years old? Most of them that I speak to do not, right? But again, there's a consequence and a benefit that comes with prioritizing career. On the same note though, like I know plenty of guys who get married young and they have the family, and a lot of the times that actually pushes them to focus even more on their goals. But then what happens is, and I'm definitely mass generalizing here, but a lot of them, not all of them, as they reach more career success, the women that they're with from a young age, well, they get older, right? And so then these men wake up and they're like, I love my wife, but I could pull a 25 or a 30-year-old. And then the marriages sometimes don't work out too. So it's just different difficulties. From my standpoint, try to get as much of your career goals checked off as early as possible, so that you don't feel like you're compromising as much. I'm 29, but I've worked really, really hard over the last 10 years to put myself in a position where if I do get married and have children, which I hope to, in the next few years, I'm not going to feel like I missed out on a career. I'm not going to feel like I wasn't able to, achieve that goal or shoot for the stars and land on the moon. Like I'm going to feel pretty, I think, fulfilled career-wise. I already do feel pretty fulfilled career-wise. There's still more I want to do, but there's also more I don't have to do. Sure, I could do another TV show, but I don't have to. I've already done a TV show, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. And I would say to anyone who feels like they are kind of struggling between the two, if your career goals are really important to you, start to put those into motion and actually get them done. That way you reach that point of self-actualization even sooner. Or just, again, going back to the comment I made before the break, recognize that you've got different seasons in life for different things. You might be in a season right now which is just not meant for you to be focusing on, career, but that doesn't mean that you can't have kids and have a career come back. It's all about seasons. It's all about priorities. But anyways, stay with me, because after the break, guys, we're going to talk about ways to infuse a little more balance into your life so that you don't feel like you're constantly picking and choosing between one goal over another. We were talking a lot about choices before the break, and making a choice to prioritize your career has benefits, but it has consequences. Just like making a choice to prioritize your romantic, goals has benefits and consequences. That all said, I think the secret is trying your best to strike a balance and making a point to just understand that like you're not always going to be able to hit the gold in every single aspect of your life, but still putting in effort and trying to be as balanced as possible when it comes to your different goals is going to get you far. Because what happens sometimes is when you're putting all of your eggs into one basket, it can lead to burnout. I know for me, like I often find myself in this situation where I just like go really hard on one aspect of my life. I'm like, shoot, like I haven't put any effort into this. And then I start to get mad at myself. Just trying your best and then forgetting the rest, as the quote says, I think can be really beneficial. Like I said earlier, different chapters of your life where you're going to be more focused on one thing over another. And that's okay. Give yourself grace throughout the process. And something that really helps me with this is creating routines for myself, where I know, okay, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to try my best to go on a walk or go to the gym. But hey, if I miss that walk or if I miss that gym, I'm not going to reprimand myself. I'm just going to try to get my steps in a different, time. And if I can't, for whatever reason, I acknowledge to myself that I have to put in a little bit more sweat equity in this aspect of my life. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to totally, drop the ball forever. It's just right now, it's probably not the right time for me to be going super hard at the gym or, being as social as possible. And so giving yourself grace and maintaining that perspective throughout, I think can be really helpful. And also having those routines set in stone so that you don't feel like you're picking and choosing all the time. You feel like you have a little bit of balance sprinkled in throughout. And maybe it's not even like my situation where you're like, I'm not going to the gym at all. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm just not going to go to the gym for an hour. I'm going to go for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, right? Because I need that other 30 or 45 minutes to put into my career or to socializing. And so just reallotting your time throughout the day and throughout your week, I think can really set you up for success and put you on a path where you don't feel like you have to always pick and choose between love life, dating life, and all your other goals as well. And the same too, like I know a lot of you guys have family commitments. Maybe it's like, okay, I really want to see my family, but I'm just not going to be able to see them as much as I want for this season of my life because I'm focused on X, Y, Z. But I'm going to make a point that when the holidays, come around the corner, I'm going to go home for Christmas or go home for Thanksgiving or whatever it is that you've got going on, or I'm going to try to make one family dinner every month. I know for some of you guys that might seem like not enough. For me, that's a lot. So just kind of having like different windows and giving yourself a break, and just thinking about too, what is a really big priority and where do I need to be putting my energy so that I can make that priority something that I check off. Maybe you don't think about life that linearly. Maybe I know there are a lot of people who are very creative and, they can just kind of wake up and do whatever and that, fulfills them. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, most likely you're probably more like me where you are running a million miles a minute and you've got a lot going on and you're trying to figure out how to fit dating into the mix, how to fit romance into the mix, because it is a goal, it is a priority, but it's not a priority like work where okay, if I don't go to work, I'm not getting the promotion. Or if I don't go to work, I'm not making X amount of money, right? There's a very kind of tangible outcome that comes with our other goals. Same with fitness, right? If I go to the gym, I will see muscle definition. With dating, it's not really that way because it's a lot less tangible. It's like, well, if I go on dates, I go on 100 dates and still not meet someone. But just understanding like you need to get more comfortable putting your energy into that side of your life if you want to see some reward come out of it, ideally, right? If you totally neglect it, the outcome that you can absolutely guarantee is you are not going to meet someone. So you got to put, some amount of willingness into wanting to meet people and, taking inspired action to make that happen as well. I hope this all made sense. That's all I got for you guys today. I feel like I've been talking a lot, but just remember, like, you got to give yourself that grace. You have to try to instill balance and infuse balance into your life, but you also have to have a hard conversation with yourself and really address, like, where am I putting my time and energy? And is this something that actually serves my priorities? And if one of your priorities is finding love and dating, then just know that where you give time to one sector of your life, you're naturally going to have less time to give to another. So I wish we had infinite amounts of time, but we don't. That's life. So we got to make it work. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, Please leave a rating and review. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. And as always, if you have a question, dating related topic that you would like me to address in a future episode, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is @ask.nelly. You can send me a little audio note and I may just feature you in a future and upcoming episode. Sending you guys love and abundance, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.
Pioneer.